Hello, welcome. I'm doing my video today on Marcus Brutus and talking whether about he was a tragic hero or great betrayer because he's known as the guy who stabbed Caesar in the back. So I guess mine first. I like I mentioned in the background or the info on the channel that I want to get into more history. I have been thinking about Roman history and some African history. I'll talk about that later, but yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into Roman history. I'm not really interested in the empire, but more of the transition because there's a lot of people, in the transition from republic to empire that are very interesting, such as Marcus Brutus. Caesar, I don't want to talk about him. He's like he's already he's talking to death already. So on the left here is on the screen is Marcus Brutus, played by Burt Lancaster in the 1953 movie Julius Caesar, which is based on the it's adaptation on the play by William Shakespeare. It's really great. It's black and white, so and Mark Antony is played by Marlon Brando. So I think I have a photo of him later on. But yeah, let's talk about him. I'm going to talk about his life and the legend. I made sure to get to the facts from not some of the sources are kind of biased because I read a little bit of Plutarch, who was the a Roman historian, but he's pretty much biased towards a hero, portraying Brutus as a hero. But I want to take a I want to try not to overgloss his mistakes or his flaws. But yeah, I will say that I'm kind of biased myself because I did read William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, and I found it really fascinating and really nice. I think it's one of his one of his best plays ever. And yeah, I fell in love with the character Brutus in the play, so I might be a little bit biased towards hero. So I'll try not to be too too fanboy for Brutus. So yeah, so his early life and career is kind of unknown, or relatively unknown. Things are glossed over, but Brutus is part of the Junii family. Now, the Junii family is very famous and very it's a very old family because they are descendants from Lucius Junius Brutus, who is the father of the Roman Republic, a father, one of the first consuls, and he kicked out the last king of Rome. His father Brutus, his father was killed by Pompey the Great. Although some rumors say Caesar was the real father because his mother was Brutus's father mother was the mistress of Caesar. But it's probably not. But Brutus grew up very philosophical and idealistic, because he comes from a very proud family about anti-tyrant, and he's very in Plutarch's review of Brutus, he's very smart and capable, and he is very passionate about his about reading books and and writing books. However, in real life, he becomes an ally to his uncle Cato the Younger, who's because his mother Brutus, I think his Brutus' mother is the half sister of Cato. So he's a very follower. He's a follower of Cato, and because he's a follower of Cato, he helps him in Cyprus dealing with the money business, and he later becomes a quaestor in the Cilicia province. I don't know where that is. Cyprus is the little island under Turkey. So, however, it's really glossed over his life. We don't really have much to talk about him other than the fact that he opposed Pompey the Great's consulship, and Pompey's a really he's one of the Rome's best generals. He opposes Pompey's powers, comparing him to a tyrant and writing rhetoric to him sometimes, but it doesn't really amount to anything. But let's talk about his relation to Julius Caesar. As I said, Brutus's mother was Caesar's favorite mistress. Plutarch goes along the relationship of Caesar and Brutus's mother is very passionate and very strong. And Brutus, through that, he gets to meet Caesar and grow a very fond and strong relationship with the man, and Caesar kind of treats him as another son. But when Caesar breaks with Pompey in the Senate and it spirals into a civil war, Brutus, according to Plutarch, so kind of biased, he puts ideals first under over friendship and fights with Pompey, who did kill his father. However, Brutus's inner circle, his Senate allies were fleeing to Pompey, and perhaps that peer pressure, kind of persuaded him to join Pompey. But because Brutus was a fan of Caesar, he was he was a friend of Caesar, and Pompey did kill his father. This claim by Plutarch can't be given some credibility because Brutus's father, he was killed by Pompey, and Caesar was his friend. So to abandon Caesar, to not fight with Caesar, whatever, to switch from Caesar to Pompey, Brutus must have been going through a lot of things, So some of his morals and some of his thinking, it would have played a role, as much as his peer pressure from his friends. So, but the war goes bad as Pompey dies, and his surviving allies, the Pompeians, they either surrender, such as Brutus, and or flee to Africa or somewhere else, as his uncle Cato does, and he later dies. So pretty awful, pretty gruesome if you listen to the stories. But Brutus, he decides to surrender, as I said. He's granted amnesty. According to Plutarch, again, I'm sorry, he's the only, he's the guy who actually wrote the life of Brutus, whatever. He was granted amnesty by Caesar, who was very passionate, and who told his men allegedly not to, harm Brutus, even if he fought back. But because Caesar was so relieved or something, he grants Brutus a very high position in Cisalpine Gaul. Some people say it's governorship, but I wouldn't trust. I don't think Caesar would, put that much power on Brutus, who did stab him in the back. But in this case, it's more metaphorically. However, Brutus is, I think he's given a praetorship, and at this time he's really good friends with another guy named Cassius. I'll talk about him later. But yeah, so Caesar, Brutus, he's told by Caesar that one day he'll become a very skilled politician, and very perhaps one day a consulship, a very high position under Caesar. However, in real life, Caesar was going to be declared dictator, and the consulship, Rome's historic, powerful office under Caesar, it would have been, kind of useless and kind of, worthless at this point, because whatever Brutus might have thought of Caesar, even if he became a consul, Caesar was pretty much untouchable, and Rome was pretty much under his knee at this time. And yes, he becomes made dictator, Caesar. And sorry if you hear things like background. I hate my neighbors sometimes. But yeah, Caesar's made dictator. However, he's also being very arrogant, and he kind of alienates himself from his senators and politicians, because Caesar doesn't respect the Senate's power. As much as corrupt as they are, and how much of a hypocrite each of the senators must have been, to disrespect the Senate and to disrespect the senators and politicians. Caesar was kind of stabbing himself in the back, because historically, people who if you don't get along with the senators, in the Senate, even though you might have good intentions, you're a powerful general, whatever, you're not gonna get that far. They're gonna probably take you down or kill you, which they do. Bruce's colleagues and family pressured him to lead the cause of against Caesar, notably Cassius, according to Plutarch again. And whether it was for ideals, similar to why he fought for Pompey, or whether he knew his consulship wasn't going to be very powerful under Caesar. I think it might have been because of his ideals, and because Caesar was disrespecting the government. And a lot of people in ancient, Rome did value respect and humbleness, whatever that meant. They consider that very valued in Roman society. So I don't think it was really because Brutus was really taking the opportunity to stab Caesar in the back, because he was going to be guaranteed a high position in Rome. But he must know that by throwing Caesar under the bus, he could have been killing, condemning himself to death, which it turned out to be. So yeah, but nevertheless, the plan was to ambush and kill Caesar in public. People say it's because Brutus says to kill Caesar in a public, or in the back alley, it was kind of slimy and disrespectful. And by killing Caesar in the public, it was to proclaim a noble cause and to restore the Republic. However, to restore the Republic, there was no really solid framework for what that meant. There was no plan for an aftermath. And the conspirators consider killing Caesar's allies, such as Mark Antony. However, I think Brutus and his allies kind of saw Caesar as the head of a snake, killed as the head, the rest falls. And they expect the Caesarians to sort of give up, which was kind of stupid and naive. But the conspirators also expected that the public would, that Caesar's legacy and fame would die with him, and that the public would flock to their cause, the conspirators, and anyone who is thought to have supported Caesar would have been seen as another tyrant or pro-tyrant, whatever. So that kind of been what they might have been thinking. But I think they probably they certainly underestimated the influence and prestige of Caesar. Nevertheless, on the Ides of March, Caesar is killed by Brutus and the other senators via stabbing, and he falls under the statue of former rival Pompey. Kind of ironic, and a minor note, but the whole Senate meeting took place in the theater of Pompey. So it's kind of ironic how Caesar dies before Pompey's feet. So rip Pompey, I guess. I kind of just this picture in back in the left because it looks more supports a hero welcome, right? But yeah. However, the conspirators or liberators, whatever you want to call them, they have no idea what to do afterwards. Brutus and his friends stay locked up in the hill while Mark Antony and Caesarian ally Marcus Lepidus, who has forces in Rome, they kind of find out that these conspirators are kind of full of it, and they kind of reevaluate the situation. They meet for negotiations, and and both sides end up in order to grant amnesty, no repercussions for the assassins. The conspirators have to confirm the popular laws by Caesar, because however ambitious or tyrannical he might have been, Caesar did have a lot of modern and popular reforms with the people, because the Senate didn't really care much about the people. But Caesar's government, or what Caesar himself, he did push out some much needed reform for the Roman people. However, Mark Antony won't. He uses the chaotic funeral of Caesar. It's really chaotic, but as a rally call for pro-Caesar supporters, Caesarians, to go on another mob rule frenzy, whatever, and put plans in place to make vengeance on Caesar's assassins. So he'll backtrack on his on his deal later. Brutus and the liberators, they know something's going to be coming. They abandon Rome. Well, Brutus and Cassius, they just they leave, kind of on the part of Cicero, kind of his fault a little bit, but they abandon Rome, Brutus and Cassius, and take up positions in Eastern Roman provinces such as Greece and Asia Minor. Other conspirators go to northern Italy, and Cicero and because some of the senators, neutral quote unquote senators such as Cicero, have to support either Antony or the conspirators. Antony's not very liked. He's kind of an idiot compared in the eyes of Cicero, so he'll support the conspirators. So yeah, they wait for Antony to make his first move because right now he's the most powerful man in Rome. However, there's another man who's going to come along, Octavian. He's the heir of Caesar's will and future emperor of the future emperor of the Roman Empire. So Antony eventually strikes. He wages war against Italy. I won't go too much into it, but he wages war in the north of Italy. Brutus and Cassius are in the east. They are preparing forces, regulating taxes and all that, taking over the eastern provinces, but they do nothing. Brutus and Cassius do nothing to help your allies. It's no, it's you have to know here that Cassius is very he was a very chaotic and violent. No. He's chaotic, energetic, and very rough man. And because of that, he isn't viewed as a very likable leader of the conspiracy. But Brutus, he's a very intellectual man. He's noble background, so that's why they choose him to be the leader. However, Brutus, because he's in overall charge of the armies there in eastern provinces of Rome, he kind of lays back because what Cicero and the other allies are doing in Rome are they try to split the Caesarians apart. They try to put Octavius against Antony, but it fails. Octavian turns on the Senate and the allies and joins Antony and Lepidus, and they pretty much purge their enemies. Cicero and the other allies are killed. So the conspirators in northern Italy and Rome are either killed or they had to flee to Brutus and Cassius in Greece. So that whole war there is pretty much going horribly wrong. But Brutus he saw Octavian and Antony as two enemies fighting each other, kind of stupid people. By fighting each other, they would have weakened themselves, but he wasn't really in touch with the what was happening in Greece. So yeah, I would point to the failure in the war in Italy as kind of more on Cicero's part, because he kind of underestimated his influence on Octavian, So, but that's another story. But yeah, both with the new triumvirate, the second triumvirate, which is Lepidus, Octavian, and Antony, against Brutus and Cassius, the liberators. Both sides start mobilizing for war. So yeah, only Lepidus stays back in Italy, while Antony and Octavian travel to Philippi, which is northern Greece, to face Cassius and Brutus. Now, the Battle of Philippi is probably just it's a series of two battles. The first major battle was these two. Brutus overruns Octavian's camp. He crushes Octavian's army, but Antony defeats Cassius's army. And because of the lack of communication, Cassius thinks Brutus is defeated, so he commits suicide. So the first battle is a draw, but because Cassius is killed and because he was the more experienced general, Brutus is left with an army which he doesn't really know how to use. He's inexperienced, However, Brutus, in order to get the loyalty of Cassius's remaining forces, he offers them money and increased wages. However, allegedly he also offers them the looting of Roman cities. But because Plutarch views Brutus as a good guy, he probably won't. He didn't mention that. I think, I don't know. I might have I was gonna. Plutarch's story on Brutus is very overrated and very long too. But yeah, but Brutus still has the strategic advantage. Antony, he's the main leader of the triumvirate armies. Even though he's kind of outflanked a little bit, Brutus still has the strategic advantage in terms of supplies. he can still starve out the triumvir army, but his army, Brutus's army, because for honor, and they're kind of stupid, they don't want to wait around, and they kind of force Brutus to fight. And the second battle ends in a total victory for the triumvirs. And Brutus flees to the hills, drinks and dances, but then has to kill himself because there's basically no hope for him left. So let me get to the next part, last part. So I was drinking water. So that's the end of the story. I want to talk about Brutus' legacy because we got to judge him now. Now Brutus is viewed as a great betrayer and condemned to hell in Dante's Inferno, and he's viewed with he and Cassius are viewed so horribly by compared to Judas, who betrayed Jesus in the back. They're condemned to hell, and they're viewed as they're put in Dante's Inferno as being chewed by the mouth of Satan, for eternity, I think. However, to Dante's he's kind of is exaggerating the extent of the betrayal, because Judas in the Bible, Judas betrayed Jesus, but to compare Jesus and Caesar as these two great men, which they are, but in terms of morality, they are very different. Caesar, he was a maniac. Sometimes he was a tyrant, yes, and he did kill a lot of millions of people in Gaul, many of his fellow Romans, and it's pretty much due to ambition. Whether it was the establishment was against him, Caesar's ambition did play a major part. So it sounded like helping to lead the death of Jesus is not the same as the death of Caesar, because Caesar was pretty much awful if you were his enemy. So, well, unless you were a Roman, but even then he had to kill some of you. So, however, I think it's more close to say that Brutus was more kind of close compared to Dante's Inferno, close to Shakespeare's play, where he's portrayed as a hero, tragic hero, dying for his Republican ideals and honor. I wouldn't say they're that strong, but they did play a role, because once again, Brutus, he was a friend of Caesar, but he did fight with Pompey, who did kill his father. And he did hate Pompey too. Pompey didn't do much for him compared to what Caesar done. He didn't spend much time with Pompey. He hated seeing Pompey, his dad's murderer, compared to his long time Brutus, his long time with Caesar. Because of Caesar's connection with his mother. So, and besides, when Caesar granted him all these titles and and all these privileges after granting Brutus amnesty after the whole debacle with the Pompeians, to betray Caesar again, and knowingly dropping a whole future career of being a possibly consul, it does speak momentum, because by killing Caesar, Brutus is pretty much risking his life to kill a so-called tyrant. Yes. However, you can make the argument that the consulship was kind of worthless under Caesar, and that Brutus would have been a puppet under Caesar. So yeah, you could argue that's kind of opportunistic, but I think Brutus is more naive into saving the Republic, kind of like what Cicero did, where he wants to restore things, but he's kind of naive of how the winds were going. So I think it's more close to Shakespeare's play of Brutus as a sort of idealistic guy, rather than some guy comparable to Judas. He wasn't that evil. He wasn't even evil in a sense. And he wasn't even shown as doing any. He wasn't shown as making really much atrocities. Now, according to Plutarch, Antony put a toga over Brutus's body as a sign of respect, and he sent his ashes to his mother. And it's kind of perhaps because Antony was kind of spared via Brutus's interjection. He didn't, because Brutus didn't want to kill his Caesar's allies. However, that mistake is the main mistake in Shakespeare's play. But still, Antony, he might have done that. I don't know. However, in another account, Octavian, who was viewed as a very negative guy, he is said to have ordered Brutus's head, to be cut off and sent back to Rome. However, it fell overboard during a storm. So, whatever the case, I think there's a lot of I think it's more accurate to say that Brutus was more naive and kind of stupid, rather than to say he was an outright villain and a betrayer. I think his morals did play a major role into his life, which pushed him to Pompey, then pushed him to betray Caesar. Because in ancient Rome, morals and ideals did play a major role. In Rome, to be viewed as a tyrant or a king of Rome, was to be very negative. However, there was a lot of hypocrites in the Senate, but for Brutus having that establishment, that legacy of his ancestor, is the father of the Republic, to have that legacy ruined by Caesar. Yeah, you. That's why I think his morals and ideals played a major role, as much as the people around him, because his uncle was Cato. Cato, who was, in my opinion, is a little bit stupid. Cato was staunchly against Caesar and anti tyrant. So to be around those people and to be around people who you kind of choose a crowd whose ideals are similar to yours. So Cato, he grew up around Cato. He helped Cato. So I don't know. I think it's more similar to say that Brutus is not a hero per se, but he is a genuine defender of the Republic. Whether that is helping to defend a corrupt establishment, to help a Senate that is doomed to be corrupt and full of selfish men, to help restore a republic that's doomed to fail. However, compared to Caesar, I think Brutus is kind of more in line with Cicero, where he's not gonna, he doesn't have any notable ambitions to restore the republic under his rule, or to completely restore the corruption or whatever. But Brutus is he just doesn't like tyrants. I think his name, his family lineage did play a significant role in dictating his life. But I don't think Brutus was very much per se evil or opportunistic, because you can make that opportunistic. You can make that fight. You can make that argument with a Pompey, but when Brutus betrays Caesar again, you can't really make that argument with Caesar that much, because Brutus, by letting his allies escape, or Caesar's allies escape, he kind of condemned himself to death. However, he must have known that by killing Caesar, there was no telling what would happen. Granted, Brutus was idealistic and very naive and stupid, so he might have thought, oh well, Caesar's dead. Well, I guess it's time to restore the republic now, right? No, things went badly, and Brutus kind of let things spiral out of control. But you can say that's kind of due to bad luck. But yeah, so I think it's more inclined to say that Brutus is more of he's kind of a he's he must be a good man. As a hero, it's kind of different because the accounts, once again by Plutarch, to have Caesar to have Caesar, like him, to have Shakespeare say that Caesar liked him, to have Pompey like him, everyone likes Brutus. It kind of speaks to mind about how Brutus was viewed by Rome at that time. And I'm trying to like figure out the words right here, but I think Brutus was kind of blind to the winds of the age because, like Pompey, he did live in a time where the rise of Caesar. But it's also good to note that the enemies of Caesar are kind of portrayed as heroes sometimes. After Pompey died, he was viewed as a hero who was brought down by the ambitions of Caesar. But this nostalgia over Brutus, over his assassination of Caesar, I think that Brutus, he definitely underestimated the legacy of Caesar, but I think Brutus, I just think he really thought that he was going to save the Republic, as much as pretty stupid or, naive that was. I think Brutus, he did have a good heart in the end, and you can also make and it's very credible to say that when he was fighting Octavian and Antony, had Brutus and Cassius won, you could make the better argument that they would have led to the restoration of a republic, even if it was corrupt or whatever. They would have extended the life of the republic rather than, bring about the empire. So I don't think Brutus is should be condemned to hell or, as a great betrayer, but to say he was a tragic hero, you can make a better account for that than whatever hellish term you can give him. But yeah, that's my opinion of Brutus. He is once again I will say that I'm highly biased towards the hero because of reading William Shakespeare's play. But after getting the accounts, I think Brutus was a good man. He didn't really kill as much people. He didn't really do any atrocities, except that promise of the Cassius's men. But that's alleged, But isn't that all history? Alleged history. But yeah, that's my opinion on Marcus Brutus. I think he was I think in my opinion he was a good man, and he was more naive and kind of short-sighted, kind of like Cicero. And but yeah, that's my video on Marcus Brutus. I also want to talk about in my next video, which is going to be on African history. I want to talk. I want to get more in touch with that continent, as I know little much about that. I'm not gonna be talking about the northern parts of Africa because I want to get a better view of Central and South Africans. And I won't really be talking about the Arabs or Muslims. My next video will be on African culture from the 19th century, so you can expect some colonialism. But yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry if I stutter again. My voice is really dry. But yeah, I plan to return to 19th century history. I might do more videos on Rome, but pretty much Marcus Brutus, the transition from Republic to Empire, was pretty much the only reason I liked it. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll get better at talking through these videos. But yeah, goodbye.